What's up, guys? Assalamu alaikum. This is Puya. In this tutorial, we're going to talk about tuples, a new data type. Tuples are quite similar to lists, but unlike lists, they are immutables. So let's begin. So far we've talked about numeric data types. In sequence data type, we talked about strings, lists, and we're going to introduce you another sequence data type, which is called tuple. In this case, we're going to see how to create a tuple, how to do basic operation, indexing, slicing, and at the end, we're going to check what does it mean that tuples are immutables. Also, we have been introduced to the concept of being immutable in strings, because the strings are immutable as well. So, how to create a tuple? To create a tuple, two round brackets are needed. As you can see, we've got the first one and at the end the second one. Then the values are, or the items are separated using a comma, as you can see here. And exactly like lists, the data types for the items can be varied. For example, it can be a tuple, it can be a string, it can be an integer, a float, and so on. Even a list can be one of the items. So here we've got two tuples. The first one's name is tuple and underline. The second one is tiny tuple, simply. Whenever you print a variable which is a tuple, it's going to print it, as you can see here. The indexing is the same as the one that we had for lists and strings. Almost all the time indexing is the same. So to get the first item, you should use 0, because indexing starts from 0 in Python. So the slicing is the same using colon. You can create a slice in your items. For example, here you say from 1 to 3, so it's going to print out 1, which this one is at index 1 till 3. The 3 is excluded, as you can see here. 2.23 is excluded and is not printed out here, or is not fetched. Then it definitely is not going to be printed as well. So if you don't mention the last index, exactly like the list, okay, so I don't want to go and check all the items, all the different ways that we can do slicing, like negative slicing, and the same goes here. So I don't want to create different examples. So the nested indexing is the same. For example, here we've got another sequence data type. So as you can see, the first one refers to this item, and this item is a sequence data type as well. So you can go on and access to inner items of this sequence data type, which in this case it is also a tuple as well. So the first indexing will refers to this, and the second one refers to 4. The first one in this case. Yeah, as you can see, the 4 is printed out. So some basic operations. If you want to have 2 tuples concatenated together, or 3 tuples concatenated together, simply you can multiply it to, for example, 2 or 3. And here I have multiplied a tiny tuple to 2, as you can see here. And where's the output? Yeah, here is the output. It has concatenated 2 of them together. This is the first one, and then the second one starts. If you want to concatenate 2 different tuples together, you can use @ sign or plus sign here. Simply just concatenates 2 tuples and create another one. Okay, these 2, after being concatenated, these 2 by themselves they have not changed. Okay, they create another one, and we print out the, for example, the third variable that this operation creates. And a very handy sign we got here, multiple sign. But if you put multiple sign or asterisk before a variable, it simply unpacks it. Okay, uh, for tiny tuple has two items. Okay, if you want to concatenate it with tuple, and for example you don't want to use plus, or simply you want to add another variable here, for example you want to add I don't know, a number here. Okay, you want to concatenate an item and, for example, another tuple or another list, you can use this asterisk. They simply unpack. What unpacking means, for example, you take these two items and put it here side by side like this one. Okay, that's called unpacking. Let me show you the result. That would be really easy to understand in that case. This is the one before end, and as you can see, this one. Simply using asterisk, it just opens the tuple and take each item out and put it after this item we have typed here. For example, it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the first item from this, the second item, the third, the fourth, and so on until this ends, until the last item, and then it is start unpacking this variable. It's very handy, for example, when you want to give inputs to a tuple, to a function. We're going to see it in the function example, but in here I just wanted you to see that to create another tuple, to create another list, you can use asterisk sign to unpack your list or your tuple. So the last operation we'll see here is len, which gets the length of the tuple. And as you can see, let me put a column here. And as you can see, it says tuple length is, for example, 6, because tuple underline has 6 items: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So let's move on to the section to see what are the different ways to create tuples. So the question is how to create a tuple which contains one item, like this. As we said, to create a tuple, you may need two round brackets like this one. But the fact is, when you want to create a tuple with one item, it doesn't work like this. The reality is, to create a tuple, you don't need round brackets, and you need the commas to create a tuple. As you can see, when I just want to create a tuple with only two round brackets. It's the type of the variable which is created here is integer. It's not a tuple. The best way to create a tuple is using two round brackets and a comma. At least you have to have one comma to create a tuple. So let me show you here. As you can see, it says this is a tuple. This is the recommended way, and this is not recommended. Using, let me print this out as well. Just give me a second to so here there are no round brackets, and at the same time the type of this variable is tuple. So to create a tuple, in reality, you only need at least one comma and round brackets are not needed, but by convention, it is better to include the round brackets. It separates the values from the outer codes and it makes it readable. Other programmers can easily understand and comprehend your code when you are following the convention. So this is not recommended at all, and try to follow the recommended approaches. So let's talk about the fact that tuples are immutable. So tuples are created to be like lists. They are intended to be like lists, but their aim is to create a sequence of data type that they are not going to change. Okay, whenever you're going to use a tuple, you have to make sure that you're not going to change it. Or whenever you have a set of variables, not a list of variables or a sequence of variables, let's put it that way, that you don't want it to change throughout your code. Okay, you want to make sure that, for example, by accident or by a programmer failure or bug, you want to make sure that it's not going to change. For example, maybe a programmer unintentionally, okay, he or she just types down this type of code, and which you want to make sure that it doesn't happen whenever someone tries to change the value of this of your sequence data type, which is tuple. For example, the Python raises an error. Okay, so Python, by providing this data type, is making it possible for us to just be more conservative about our sequence of items, and we can make sure that it's not going to be changed throughout our code. Like here, for example, I have, let's not use this one, let's go on with this one. Oh, yeah. So what was tuple? Yeah, it contains 4, 5, 1, 2, 5, and so on. Okay, consider unintentionally a programmer tries to change the first item and you don't want it to happen. Okay, Python, it simply going to the kernel of Python is going to raise an error whenever someone tries to change a value of a tuple. And as you can see, it raises an error and says tuple object does not support item assignment. Another way of changing a tuple is, here we wanted to change a value of an index. Here, another way is to remove or delete an item from a tuple, which in this case, even in this case, it says tuple object does not support item deletion. Okay, there could be several ways that you can change the value, and as you can see here, tuple prevents all the ways. Actually, we checked 2 ways, but even this 2 ways, tuple prevents it and raises an error. So you are sure that uh, your sequence of items is not going to be changed throughout your code, and you're sure that, for example, after 100 lines or 1000 lines of code, the items inside your variable is going to be the same. So let's talk about the last section, which in this case I want to talk about the methods. We're going to talk about what are methods or what are functions, but I wanted to show you what tuple provides for you. Okay, what kind of operation it lets you to have. The first one is .index. For example, here I've got a variable called value. It is my name, and for in tuple, okay, let me bring tuple so we can see what it is. Okay, as you can see, Puya is here. So if consider you want to get the index of this value, okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be Puya. It could be 1, 2, 5, like this one. Using .index, you can get the index of that value. This is one of the items. This is one of the methods that are provided for tuples. unfortunately, there are very few items, few methods that are available with tuples. The first one is index, because we cannot change the items, change the values of a tuple. So uh, uh, there are very few methods that we can use. One of them is index, and the other one is count. The count, let me show you the Docker string of count. It says simply it returns number of occurrence of value. Okay, for example, here I say what is the occurrence of, again, a value, which is called value. You may want to change it, but it's up to you. As you can see, it says that the number of occurrence is 1, because we only have one value, which is equal to 1 to 5. Let me change it a little bit. So let me add 2 of these values here at the end, for example. Now let me run this again. And one more thing. If I show you the Docker string of index, it says returns the first index of value. Okay, we've got 2, 1, 2, 5, but it returns the first occurrence. And as you can see, the first time that it occurs, it's at index 1, not at index 6, if I'm not mistaken. 0, 1, 2, 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. And here the count says we've got 2 items, 1, 2, 5. We've got 2 items of this. So that's it for our tuple. I hope it was helpful for you. So like always, subscribe to the channel and click on the bell ring so you will be notified of the future videos. And again, all the codes are in this GitHub repository. The link is in the description below the video. I would really appreciate it if you start a project and follow me on GitHub as well. So till the next video, goodbye.